These images are from 1948, when over 750,000 Palestinians were forced to flee from their homes after Zionist militias, which would later become the Israeli military, used a campaign of violence to depopulate entire Palestinian cities and villages. This was known as the Nakba. These images are from the War of 1967, when Israel took control of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, displacing 300,000 Palestinians. This was known as the Nakba. And these images are from 2023, during Israel's war on Gaza, which has claimed over 11,000 lives, a number that's likely an undercount given the Gaza Ministry of Health's inability to continue cataloging the dead following the worsening of Israeli bombardment. Since the first week of its assault on Gaza, Israel tells Western media it has advised Palestinians in North Gaza to, quote, evacuate to the south. But does evacuation accurately describe hundreds of thousands of Palestinians being warned by an invading army to flee south along unsafe passages? Or is it another euphemism to sanitize what may be further ethnic cleansing? Welcome to the Occupation Style Guide, a series that looks at how we talk about, the things we talk about, and the words we use. The movement of Palestinians from the north of Gaza to the south has repeatedly been characterized as, quote, evacuations.
Israel is urging the evacuation of more than 1 million people in northern Gaza.
Israel has ordered hospitals in northern Gaza to evacuate. But if people who are able-bodied are finding it difficult to evacuate the area, how on earth does a hospital evacuate?
What would happen if you did have to evacuate all the people who still remain?
If you say evacuate the patients, it means you want me to kill at least 100 patients at 1 second.
This term, however, purposely and dangerously obfuscates what Israel is doing, forcibly displacing Palestinians in a way which could be determined as a violation of international law. See, the term evacuation implies an organized process in which an authority is moving people from an unsafe situation towards safety. And it also implies that at some point they should be able to, return to their homes. But that's not what's happening here. If someone is forcing you at gunpoint to leave, you're fleeing. That's you being forced to leave your home. And if where you are being forced to flee to, like southern Gaza, is still being indiscriminately bombed, you're not fleeing to safety.
They say if you want to protect your own life, go to the south, which, by the way, the south is heavily bombed. So there is nowhere safe. And we are asking them to abandon the patients. It's impossible logistically, and it's inhuman.
After the first so-called Israeli evacuation order on October 13th, the Secretary General of Amnesty International stated that what Israel was doing was, quote, setting in motion the mass forced displacement of more than 1.1 million people. The UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, defines forced displacement as those who've been displaced as a result of persecution, conflict, generalized violence, or human rights violations. So we're not talking about an evacuation of Palestinians. We're talking about forced displacement. Calling the fleeing of Palestinians from the north to the south an evacuation also erases the history of the Israeli occupation, the history of the State of Israel and its military displacing Palestinians. In fact, around 70% of Palestinians in Gaza are refugees from 1948, or descendants of those refugees. There are also multiple refugee populations within Gaza who've been displaced throughout the years due to other Israeli bombardment campaigns, like in 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021. And these same refugee communities have been bombed again this year. Since October 7th, a total of 1.5 million Palestinians have been forcibly displaced again because of the Israeli bombardment. That's over half of Gaza's population. So when we use and see a term like evacuation to describe forcible displacement, what we're seeing is the active erasure and softening of the history of the Israeli state project that necessitates the displacement of Palestinians, whether in Gaza or the West Bank. That sort of softened euphemistic language also absolves Israel of 75 years of violence against Palestinians, and it absolves the occupation, which remains the ultimate source of all violence. And so precision with our words matters.